Welcome back to the Berg Podcast. Thanks for joining me today. With me today is Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
And Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And today we are talking about Construction Appreciation Week. And it's like second Thanksgiving, right? Is that we don't take a lot of public time to thank our team. I think we do a fairly good job of it internally. But this is one of those times annually where we like to be public about it.
It's an interesting thing because on one side, it's a forced event, which is great in the general construction thing because I think that a lot of people, we talked about before, construction is kind of an aggravation to people, and so it's good that they have this thing. On the other side, though, it's like that, appreciating your team, appreciating the people in general, the subcontractors, the vendors, all the people involved in making this process go. Having a date on the schedule, cool. But does it have as much validity just because it is a date on a calendar?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I feel like it's like an awareness thing, right? Trying to like public awareness about the important role that people in the trades play. I don't know that it gets a lot of publicity though outside of the construction world, right? Like I don't see like a newspaper posting articles about Construction Appreciation Week or anything like that. And so
it all depends on who you follow on social media because I know that my LinkedIn thing for the next 10 days, it'll be just because that's who I follow. You know what I mean? Like if you're
people inside the industry though,
very good.
Yeah.
But like you said, trying to get it to everybody is a little bit, it's still a work in progress, shall we say.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And, there is like that sort of, people want the nice stuff. They want the new stuff. They want progress, but they don't want the inconvenience of whatever it takes to get there. Right. And I think that a lot of times people only see the inconvenience until they have the product, not realizing certainly all of the effort that it took to get them there.
Someone once said that there's a couple different variations of it, but to get an omelet, you have to break and scramble eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And we're the break and scramble egg part. When it's done, the grass is green, the curbs are white, the macadam's black, the building is shiny, the windows are there. That's the final product. But the getting there process, nobody wants to see that. They just want the order that comes out at the restaurant. They don't want to understand what it takes to make it there.
Yeah, and I mean, and we have to own that it's not an outside the industry, inside the industry problem exclusively. Like, I think we're all inconvenienced by the turnpike in 82. You know what I mean? Like getting to Wingers it's a pain. I got to cross that bridge. I got to sit at this light. I'll just go around. It's easier to go a different way. You know what I mean? Same thing on the turnpike with all the construction that goes on. But without those things, you're not going to cross the turnpike on 82, and you're just going to sit in traffic when there's a traffic jam and there's nowhere for traffic to go in the case of an accident.
I think people would be more upset if they didn't repair that bridge.
Yeah.
Just, you know what? It's failing. Just take it out.
Just take it out.
They do that on other roads. They've done that on other roads just to get rid of it.
That on other roads. Little down the turnpike further, there's a couple of roads they took the bridge out. Okay, you're not going to be able to go that way anymore. And you think about that, and you realize the inconvenience is incidental in the scheme of things to getting the work done, but it just feels like an inconvenience. And I think that's where, you guys are both hitting on that. People don't see it for the benefit that it is of what it creates, and that everything that we have was built by someone. You know what I mean? Everything. Somebody built everything that's here. It didn't just exist. And so to go out and try and identify that and say thank you and appreciate the guys that go out there and do that work every day it's important. But I think that, we have to continue to work at it because it's got to be something that's gets more traction outside the industry. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's so many things, like it's National, Donut Day and everybody knows it somehow. You know what I mean?
Right.
But this, something that actually impacts your daily life every day, all the time, really doesn't get much traction. And I think that speaks to us as an industry, that we for so long wanted to hide in the shadows and not talk about it and not broadcast what we did or tell the story or, have a narrative. And that's where we are now.
Yeah, that's fair. I was in my head thinking about that when you said like everyone knows National Donut Day or whatever. I mean, I don't certainly
I don't know what day that is.
I might know it. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. But it certainly feels like those get like we talked about, right? Yeah. People know those. You walk into any business and they've got donuts sitting out for National Donut Day or whatever it might be.
Right.
I don't think the problem is we haven't figured anything to give away for free because it costs too much money.
Yeah.
Donut Day, first day of spring for Rita's, like all these things, they get stuck in your head because there's some kind of free or benefit to it. Whereas for us, this is just us thanking all the people that have just, worked through a long summer or whatever your schedule is.
Yeah.
And I think it also has a big understanding in depending on where you are location wise, because, in our area here, we have a lot of already been developed. So we're doing a lot more redevelopment type scenario. So there is a lot more inconvenience. The waterline guys are blocking roads because they have to fix a waterline. It's not brand new roads. I mean, if they were doing a subdivision or a brand new town like they do other places, you wouldn't see it until it was done. It was off to the side.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is, there's dust or there's something and there's people or, we start at 7 a.m. and maybe somebody doesn't wake up that early. And so, those are the things that we're closer to existing houses or structures than maybe that you are in other locations.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
What's funny is that as we're talking about construction appreciation and like it being appreciated or not, is somewhere I feel like, I don't know that and you were talking about social media, I don't know that the team sees it, but a job like Longwood is one that's the anomaly where there is a lot of appreciation. Like in other words, there's a constant flow coming out of Longwood of talking about how great this is going to be, of what's been done, of pictures of the work.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a number of times that their pictures were based on our equipment. And so I think that's an odd dichotomy, right? Is something like that's viewed partly for the greater good, but I think more importantly that has marketing behind it, that they're actively marketing it. But most things we build are not actively marketed in that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? To a broad group of the population. Like obviously if you're building a development, it would be broadcast because they want to sell those houses. If you're building a building,
apartment complex,
or an apartment complex. But even if you're building like an industrial space, like Viwinco comes to mind, right? So we did Viwinco. It's local. It was a nice project. It went well, created more space, but they didn't like broadcast it. Now, internally, I had bought windows from Viwinco and I redid them at my house and I had to go pick something up and they had like a picture or something, like it talked about it, and they were like, well, it's a new building, like internally they knew it, but it wasn't something that was marketed. So Longwood's one of those like oddities where they are actively marketing it. And ironically, in a twist, our team doesn't realize it. Like in a normal situation, our team would realize that the GC that we're working for, the owner, the homeowner, the end user, that they appreciate what we do, but the general public doesn't really know and they don't appreciate it. They're like, these guys are in our way.
Yeah.
But with Longwood, it's actually the opposite, where it's a difficult job, very, very technical, very tight and demanding. But the client is actually actively broadcasting it. And the number of times we've talked about it, the number of times that I run into people, from that Westchester area, they're like, oh man, we see everything you guys are doing and it's all over social media and Longwood and we're members there. You're almost done. They want to talk about it. It's interesting that I didn't really think about it till right now that we're talking about it, that it's somewhere that we actually do get appreciated a lot.
That is interesting. And I was thinking about like how, you mentioned how they are advertising it. And one of the reasons we actually started being more active on social media was like for our own selfishness to tell the story of our people, right? To like give them a place to say like, I did that. I was there I am, and have something tangible that they could point to. Because most of these places aren't a place you can bring your wife or your kids, and let them watch what you're doing or let them experience, for better or worse, there's some of the struggle that it takes to achieve the thing that everybody wants at the end. And that was a big driver. I think when you said like, hey, I want us to be more active on social media, I think you were saying like, this is cool. I'm proud of what our team does. Let's show it off.
Well, it helps with so many things, but that is the reality. Our people toil away, day in, day out in places where, maybe the neighbor's not happy that the new place is going up. Maybe they thought that was their personal backyard and it's not, or whatever the scenario. So there's a lot of times where improvement or, things change, and that's people are not comfortable with change. And so we're part of one of the agents for change. And so there's a lot of just kind of like, get it done, get out, move on type of scenario. That's just our industry in general. And this social media has allowed it. I mean, I'm wondering too that like now, because, I said my social media and LinkedIn feed at least is full of other contractors, doing this appreciation. Does it leak out because maybe that person that, has a link to someone that works at a financial industry, so it might leak out a little bit, but yeah, I mean, unfortunately in the TV news, we're usually traffic jams, if there's injuries, or if there's some kind of utility disruption. That's literally the 3 times that we get brought up into regular news.
Well,
or traditional news, we'll call it.
So first, I think it came to mind as we were saying it, that the other thing is that we're ground down most times, right? Like in that reference for people not in the industry don't realize, like ground up construction's the building, right? It's the thing, it's the structure. But the ground down is everything that makes the building plausible, makes it possible to have a building. And we're ground down. So you don't really see what we did. When we're done in a perfect world, you don't see anything we did. And that's success. But so that's one thing that makes it harder to like have this tangible thing that you project. The other thing I was thinking about was the coffee table book, the picture book is another example of that same thing where it's not social media, that's tangible. They hold it. But we give it out. And I think that was the same thing where we're trying to say, like, look at what we did, like, be proud of what you did, appreciate it. And you can appreciate it all year. You don't have to, whatever you do with that book, whether it's the kids or other people see it and your spouse, your family, they can see what the team has built. I know my kids enjoy that. Some of their friends enjoy that. But the other, for another place I thought about where you see it, where you get appreciation. And it was obviously this politics played into this with them wanting to really gain on it. But when the fire under the overpass on 95 in the city, and when a few companies got together and came in and used a different method to close it off and basically fill it in and build a drivable stretch to repair 95, because you don't think about it. But I mean, that could have been one of the most, other than Baltimore Key Bridge,
in the last 2 years,
in the last probably the last decade, the most disruptive thing that could have happened is for 95 to get shut down in Philadelphia. Key Bridge is pretty disruptive. It's odd that we haven't heard anything, but I think that's because they're still, once they start to figure out a solution, it's just a much more complicated solution. They got to figure out a way over that body of water. But those are the times when you'll see it, and then it is appreciated, but it's hard because it's not something, like I said, I just feel like there's a lot of times when we appreciate a lot of things, and, being just coming off of Labor Day and being in September, the girls had asked me, like, what is Labor Day celebrating? And I was like, it's work.
Right.
Like, it's
the American worker.
It's celebrating that people go to work and they Ford had a good word. They toil, and I don't want that like negatively, but like you go to work and so many things jump into my mind. Everybody takes the pictures now of their kids, and we do not. I take a picture of our kids, but not with a sign that says what grade they're in.
Oh, right.
We haven't dropped that deep into social media craziness. But I saw somebody had posted one and it had like 2 kids that were in school, one kid that had a sign that said, I'm literally holding this because I was going to throw a fit if I didn't get to hold something. And then the dad had a sign that said like 6,247th day of work.
Yeah.
And that just came to mind in this conversation that like, we don't celebrate a lot of times the things that make things go, whether it be the husband or the wife, the mom or dad, or both working, we post a picture of like, yay, it's my first day at school. And I get it. I mean, Erin posted pictures of the girls going to school. But meanwhile, there's been people working the whole time and there's no recognition of them.
Do you think that, I was just thinking back to how like the trades have kind of taken on that signing day thing. That's used to be a sports thing.
Yeah.
Is there other things that we could take on from a, outside the construction industry to help kind of like garnish some of that? I was just laughing when you're saying that, but everybody holds, like they do, like used to do the things for like the movies where like the little like,
the clicker thing,
click or claps down or whatever, and it says like, whatever on it, like, things you see at like, I don't know, Photoshop things or whatever. Like, but do you think that like there is more stuff to kind of like, I know that like when the first day a new team member here, they get their photo taken and then like, maybe on their anniversary, it's an appreciation of that or different things. But like, maybe that's part of it is that we've been so insular for so long that we need to kind of start using some of the tools that are being used by other industries to really help celebrate what this week means in the general scheme of things.
I think they might be doing it, some of the things, and that I'm like out of the loop because I'm not big on social media. But when you see like some of the people that they talk about, and you know it better than me because you're oddly you don't use social media, but you are aware of all these things, so you have some connection to it. But like all the guys that really like show off themselves, how skilled they are running equipment. A lot of times it's like one man band operations where it's a guy, like Matt Lister comes to mind. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't do it, but that sort of thing. A guy that really takes pride in his equipment, owns this 1 or 2, 3, 4 pieces of equipment, runs them all himself, and it's like a 1 or 2 guy operation, and they take videos of themselves doing the thing, and then people watch them. And so I think that's a sense of appreciation in the modern society that they're getting, likes or whatever it is, clicks that says that people appreciate them putting up these things and they're watching it. So I think there is some of that stuff probably out there, and we see it too with a lot of times they have the rodeos. A lot of people don't do it and it hasn't taken off, but that's sort of almost like an all-star game situation with the sports analogy, like there's stuff there, and we've talked about it, like doing things internally, to have like little competitions that would be fun that they could do. And we haven't gotten there with some of the stuff, but we do have our fall company outing coming up, which is another place where we appreciate everybody and get together and get to see families and talk to people and just say thanks for everything they do all year. So I like the timing of that it's coming up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that is always that interesting dichotomy when you talk to somebody outside the industry and they might watch a clip or a video of a particular person, a Let's Dig 18 or a New Era or whatever those are. And it's so interesting because that is such a defined, controlled environment that it doesn't really have some of the same thing. And there was the good part about, as I said on my LinkedIn, everybody I'm probably following is construction related. But the interesting thing was 3 to 5 years ago, there was none of that. Now everyone's doing X amount. So now it's the question of where do you go from there, right? Because some of the coolest videos I've seen in the last couple of years, but now they're done. And we talked about that, the first issue the other day and like how that's become a thing. So you're constantly trying to like, okay, what's the next thing? Or do you just keep doing the same thing and the consistency matters? Like it really is a big, pill to swallow at the same time because there is just so many different things that this, we joke about using the shotgun approach and trying to get out stuff to our team in so many different ways because everyone likes it differently. But that just means there's so many things that have to be done in order to make that approach work.
Right.
We have the podcast, we have, newsletters, we have safety scoops, we have all these different things. And, there is back office stuff. There's a big team of back office people. We'll call them back office because they might not be out with a shovel every day, but they're getting all this stuff to the team so that they can keep doing what they're doing on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Dan, you and I were talking about this earlier, unrelated conversation. And I think it's where you're going potentially, but like, we continue to try and like do these little things, right? We, some of the things that I like seeing that, our social media team does well, like the hard hat handoffs, like acknowledging a new team member's progress, from, becoming the green helmet to the orange helmet, right? Like, I think it's neat to see. I think the anniversary posts are neat. I think that anytime we can highlight a team member or show them off, it's really neat. But in saying that, like, how do we not let that become the noise, right? How does that not just blend in with everything else that's happening in the venues that we're putting it, so that our people aren't like just lost in the mix, so to speak, right? And that's a really good question, because like, what is the next thing? How do we evolve the way that we're, highlighting them, saying thank you, showing off their hard work, and still have it be effective? So,
well, and the tough part is that a lot of things to show off what they did is a finished product. And as Dan said, the finished product doesn't show what they did.
right.
So we can show you this beautiful building and this beautiful property that they were very instrumental in helping get to that point.
Right.
But it's all paved over. It's all grass again. Like, you don't see their actual work. So when you're trying to show their work and show the finished product, it's kind of a different, they're two different things. It's like, okay, here's what the property looked like before. Here's the after. Great. It was a grass field, a wooded lot of existing building.
Right.
Here's the new one. In between there was where all the work was completed, but there's no way to kind of get those two things. Like, you can't show like a 3D picture and be like, there's actually 14 pipes underneath there, and there's 32 electric lines and all this stuff. Like, all that stuff is, there is no way to show that in 3D to show all the work that they had to complete in order to get that project to where it needs to be.
And so much of the time, it's not like a pretty picture. Right.
Because that's like, in the middle of the omelet situation. They're scrambling the eggs.
Yeah. Everything is scrambled. It's not always pretty. A lot of times those pictures, some of those pictures that are my favorite, actually capture the struggle.
Yeah.
And people don't often want to see like the struggle. They want to see the thing. That's
what's so ironic about it is, I mean, I think there is a lot of companies out there, who have realized that the picture you want is not the picture of the finished building that you're marketing for someone to lease. The picture you want is of like the person that's got like dirt on their shirt and they're sweaty and it's hot and they got a shovel and there's a machine right next to them with a bucket that's as big as their car picking up dirt, and dirt's falling. It's messy. I mean, it's messy. It's dirty. It's hard. It's sweaty. But that's what it is. And instead of trying to pretend like that's not what it is, I think the real appreciation is to embrace it and say, this is what it is. And it takes a hard person. It takes a committed person to do that. But we have the people to do it. And so do a lot of other solid companies. And these people are what make you be able to sit in that condition, to operate in that condition, to live in that condition, is that they're willing to do the hard work necessary for you to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Right? They're not even enjoying them themselves. I mean, not to say they don't build their own houses, do their own work, but in this scenario, and I think that's really, it's telling of our people, and it's important. And then the other thing that comes to mind is you were talking about that it's not always so pretty under the ground, right? Like, it's a mess.
Right.
And that's true. And I feel like it's like Longwood Day for me right now. I don't know why, but Longwood comes to mind because Longwood is frustratingly perfect. Like, you just look at the runs and it looks like someone drew it on a CAD file. Like, I mean, I'm talking legitimately, Brian. I go down there and it's just pipe on top of pipe, on top of pipe, on top of pipe. And they're all run perfectly symmetrically, as neat as could be. And with such care, which is what made Longwood so difficult for us, is that it's not necessary, but it is what they wanted. And it's what they're getting. But at the end of the day, a 3D rendering of what Longwood actually looked like might be the favorite thing I could see at Longwood. Like, if I ever go to Longwood again, if I can get there mentally myself and I go back and I take my family to Longwood, if they could have a 3D representation of what I'm actually looking at, like standing in the fountain garden in front of the LRS, looking at that glass building, and everybody sees the glass building and the trees. But what I would really want to see is a 3D rendering of shows you what's actually there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think like the city when you see like a skyscraper, and underneath of the skyscraper is a subway and the utilities. So what does that mean is actually there? Like, how cool that picture would be. You know what I mean? Like a
cross-section.
A profile of what that actually is would be, people would not believe it. And I'm speaking Longwood specifically. They are going to think they're standing in a yard and there's a city beneath them that they don't even know exists, and I think that might be, I don't know that Longwood does anything with it, but I think I'd be interested to see it. I'd like to, like, that's how I see it now. When I look at it, I see it the way that it got there, all in like one profile to realize like you think you see this, that's not at all what you see.
Right.
Do you think that's part of why like this appreciation thing, jumping back to it, is so challenging because the group of people that are in this industry by their nature are kind of, we'll get it done. We don't need not like they want the accolades, and it's not that they don't deserve them, but they're just kind of in general, kind of a little bit more, it's almost in their DNA, right? I mean, like we joke about it, like,
for sure,
we love having teammates, come join us on the podcast, but some of them aren't interested.
Right.
They don't want to do that, or, those kind of things. Like that's not their MO. And I think we have a larger group maybe of that than we have the people that want to. And, is that just, you just kind of want
it's a big piece. I think, and the funny part is like, and I, outwardly, I don't care. I say it comfortably. Like I don't really drink, but I feel like I could get all of them to talk over a beer about jobs and work and what they did today. And you know what I mean? And we could end up in a conversation where we're saying like person X is better than person Y. And they'd be like, no way, I'm definitely better than him. And like it be competitive and then want to prove how effective they are, how skilled they are, which is crazy to watch how good some of them are on these machines. But if you said like, hey, I'd like you to go to this school and tell everybody what you do, they'd be like, oh, I dig dirt.
Gets real short, real quick.
That'd be it.
Yeah.
That'd be it. You know what I mean? In other words, and they don't tell the story. And I think that's it. It's hard to appreciate someone who doesn't want, it's not that they don't want, I'm not explaining it well. It's not that they don't want to be appreciated. It's that they don't need it. It's not why they're doing it.
Or do you think it's because our industry has not appreciated for so long? They've just gotten conditioned to that particular thing.
I don't know.
And this is odd. This is unique to them. I mean, like when we started this wasn't any of ours like top pick, right? I mean, doing this wasn't a thing, but it like we saw a long-term benefit for it, but like, it hasn't. Other people are like, I'm good with that. Like, it's not there.
I don't know. It's probably got to be a little bit of both. Because if you separate us all as individuals out, right? Like there are people who did many different things where they would have gotten accolades, gotten acknowledged, and probably been proud of that acknowledgement. So I think to some degree, it's that if you expect that you're going to get acknowledged and you don't, you'll meet disappointment. So if you expect that I'm not going to be acknowledged and then actually build like a psyche, a mindset that like, that's what makes it, the not acknowledging me is what is actually acknowledging. You won't even acknowledge that I exist, but
I know you need me.
You need me. Like you're not going to talk about it.
Right.
Like in other words, maybe it is a thing that built over, and that would be crazy because you'd be talking about generationally building like a toughness into the people who choose to be in this environment. Because I think it's really important to say that on this podcast. These are not people that fell into this thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Your first choice may have been that you wanted to play professional baseball, but by the
time you're 12, you realize that wasn't the thing.
There's a point at which you're standing in a batter's box or on a pitching mound and you realize that's not for you. That's not going to happen. But they don't fall into it. It's not by accident. It's not like, well, there's nothing else I could do. You know what I mean? I'm just going to end up here. These are people that worked hard to develop a skill and that's where they are.
Right.
But so it would be generationally developing that sort of a feeling. And I think about my own dad in that moment and think how he didn't want me to go into construction because he just saw it as like a hard way to go that no one appreciated, So then it could make sense, right? Because generationally he would say to me like, don't do that because they're not going to appreciate you. So then I would go into it knowing I'm not going to be appreciated, but liking that versus the alternative of the other options I made available for myself because I did have other options.
Well, and I think there's also a secondary thing now is that there's a lot of blowback on too much false appreciation. The trophy community, right?
Yeah.
And you talk to any of our team members and they're very to a person, they're very staunch supporters of not that.
Right. Yeah.
That's not most of their DNA. You know what I mean? Like that's just not how they see the world. Yeah. And again, it's the psyche
out that way.
Like you talk to any of them and like, there might be more colorful stories, but it's like, they tried to give my kid something and they lost the game. Like that's not happening. Like those are the stories you hear from the team members. And it's just like, that's the world. And that's the focus for them. Well, it's like you have to earn it. You don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the draw. That's part of, I think what draws people to the blue collar world is so multifaceted, but I think that's one of it. It's a place that attitude is still embraced, you know, and I make
you'll go back to it. And like those guys that, you know, maybe the homeowner brought them cookies or brought them pizzas, like they'll remember that's like, but that's like an interaction that is very authentic and, you know, using a code word, but like authentic, you know, like they want like that actual appreciation. They don't want like a picture. They don't want like a high five or anything. They just want someone to be like, here's some Gatorades. Here's a pizza. You know, those things seem to, you know, really stick with them more than.
Well, you know what I think another example of that with talking like appreciation is like when Ford or Dylan jumps in a trench or jumps in a machine. Like that's appreciation. Like in other words, they appreciate that because they know that you appreciate what they're doing. Like you stopped what you were doing and said, you're the most important thing is to help you right now because we don't get done without you. You know what I mean? So I think we do a pretty good job. I know we try and we are intentional about it.
Sure.
And it reminds me in some ways of like safety when you have to be like intentional. And I feel like you lose the genuineness of it because of the formality, but that's like a personality thing that lets me fit into blue collar is that I feel like when you are more formal, it is less genuine. That's not true inherently, but it's a feeling I have. And so I try to be more informal when I'm really trying to make sure everybody knows I appreciate it. I just want to show up and like be appreciative and thank them and, you know, whatever, because when it's more formal, I feel like it's more like, well, it's Tuesday at 2:00. I'm supposed to say thank you now. You know what I mean? And I don't want it to be that. I want it to be like, I show up and like, this looks amazing. You guys have done great work.
Right.
Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's probably a decent place to wrap it up. We don't say it a lot publicly, but we're saying it publicly now. We've got the best team, and we truly appreciate our guys and the daily effort that they give to make the gears turn the way they do. Couldn't be done without them, and we're thankful. So,
thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Folks, we hope you got something from this episode, and we hope you come back.